Hello, everybody, and welcome to Two Geeks and One Noob, where we gather friends of similar interest and maybe not so similar, and discuss, joke, learn more about, and generally have fun with geek culture. On today's episode, we're following our nostalgia trip by discussing some of our favorite sitcoms from our childhood. So, late 80s, early 90s, or into the 90s and early 2000s.
We kind of put a cap on it at 2001. Just to kind of put an arbitrary boundary, so to speak.
Yeah.
And some of these were on when we were younger, but we may not have watched until later in life. But as far as airing date was from 89 through 2001.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very good shows that were coming out around there. But David, I know that you were not much into the TV scene back then. Were there any?
Oh no. TV, yes. Sitcoms, no.
Well, yeah, not so much the sitcoms, but were there any that you ended up watching, maybe even just a few episodes, or
Oh yeah.
Or even later in life as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. So so my sister and I actually really enjoyed Home Improvement
oh yeah,
for a long time.
goal.
But due to certain behaviors that were being emulated, folks put the kibosh on that.
Man, even though the family side of things was so well done in that show, it was.
I seem to recall the justification being that the kids treated Tim like an idiot.
Because he was.
Right? And remember what I said about emulated behaviors?
Yeah. No,
My dad is no idiot.
yeah. But it's one of those things too where it's like at the end of the show, the difference was very clear of yeah, I may have my stupid moments, but it's no, I know when to make it serious.
Yeah.
So you kind of had to get through those moments to get to the good ones.
Yeah, and even then, looking back at it now, there would almost always be that scene where Tim goes in the backyard and he's talking to the neighbor, who I never can remember his name, but
Wilson.
I know he's... Thank you.
Wilson!
Wrong one. But where he talks to Wilson, which, one, how many guys, now that we're older and basically on our own, how many of us can acknowledge, no, there's always at least that one person we go to for advice when we don't know what to do. And that was kind of the point of the show, was they're parents. They've not been parents to kids this age before. Yeah. What do they do?
Yep. So they had
going through some of those things for the first time, when Brad went into adolescence and started being that snarky teenager. He was at some point, Brad just catapulted into adolescence. So what do I do with that?
Yep. But the fact that he Tim always goes to Wilson or goes to his co-host, what would you do? So he's always looking for advice.
Oh, he'd never go to his co-host.
Yeah,
you're right.
Al occasionally went to him.
That was it.
But he never went to Al for advice.
Yeah.
Home Improvement is a special one for me. That's my favorite. I love that show. I have the whole series on DVD. I have the whole series on Vudu, so I can go through and watch digitally.
Nice.
I love that series. That's a classic and a favorite.
Yeah.
And one thing that I actually enjoyed is remind me of the oldest son's name. You just said it.
Brad.
Whenever Brad starts going into adolescence, that was one of the last episodes I remember we were able to watch before getting the kibosh on it. Was the advice he got was, you and your son need to have one-on-one man time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when they start building the hot rod. Going back and watching it later, that is a ongoing motif, and he brings in the other boys constantly.
Mm-hmm. That was that
I loved that
his
going
own
back.
rite of passage for Brad going into adolescence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I have to say my favorite character from that was definitely Randy, the middle son.
I mean, my favorite was Heidi, but we won't go ahead.
Whose wasn't Heidi at the time?
Yep.
Yeah,
But
Randy was great just because he had that comedic back and forth with Tim that
he had
the other
the
ones
same
didn't.
the same comedic timing as his dad and stuff like that. It was just okay, this is great comedy, just duoism.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And you mentioning that makes me realize just how much I may have emulated that character, not realizing it, because that sarcasm and dark humor is me.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's one of those things where even though I was the youngest child for a long time in my family, I more so related to Randy because it was that humor and very like just snarky and just like yeah.
I definitely had my share of punishments for making a joke at the wrong time with my parents. So like I relate to Randy more than I realized until you said it.
Oh, there are so many stories I can tell you right now.
Moving on. No. Yeah, no. Home Improvement was definitely one of my favorites growing up. Same with Boy Meets World.
Yes.
Boy Meets World was one of my favorites, even though, again, it was one of those ones that, like, I got to watch some of it growing up, but then I watched the whole series back, or, front to back, when I got older and was able to listen and watch it a bit better with a grown-up eye and be like, this is actually a really, really good story.
Yeah. That was one that we watched whenever we were at our grandparents' or at a friend's place, and then going back later watching it. I'm trying to remember where we were. Like, the whole family was together. It was on. We ended up watching an episode. And I think it was my dad. He's sitting like, oh my gosh, yeah, they actually captured not only that age range, but did so in a manner that's actually paying attention to trying to get out in the best possible scenario and keeping your integrity intact.
Yep.
Why did we not encourage y'all to watch that?
Yeah. Well, it's not only that, but it's kind of the opposite of a lot of those shows back then where, the kids were always shown as the smart ones and the parents were idiots. Like, the parents were smart. They were decisive.
And
they
very
were
capable.
disciplinary.
Yeah.
And, capable. And, like, it was just an all-around great show.
Yep.
And they also had that neighbor mentor character as well. And it was also cool to see
Who they could never escape.
it was also cool being able to see, like, as Corey got older, that he kind of became that, like, moral compass for, like, everyone else, just based on, like, the way he was raised and what he learned as a kid.
Yeah.
And so he went from being the kid that was making dumb mistakes to, like, still making dumb mistakes, but he was also the one that they kind of turned to, like, okay, like, am I headed in the right path, or do I need to turn around?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite moments from Boy Meets World isn't even one of the big moments, is when they recast the actress for Morgan.
Oh,
And
yeah.
at the end of the episode, the daughter comes down and they're like, "Oh my gosh, Morgan, I don't even recognize you. How long? Where have you been?" She was like, "I was grounded for like 2 years."
Yep.
Yeah, I love breaking the fourth wall. Such a great show. Oh my gosh.
Man, that one's a classic. Me and my sisters used to watch that one, and like that was when it was first airing. We didn't watch it all the way through. Like, something stopped us, and we just never got around to it. But then later, when my middle sister, and I were in high school, we started watching it again on like the late Nick at Night, because my parents would go to bed, and we were like, "All right, we have free reign. What do we want to watch?"
It's
Yeah.
on Nick at Night.
It was, yeah.
That's depressing.
Well, now it's on Disney Plus.
That
so.
was after
Yeah, okay,
it
that's okay.
finished airing, so it's like it wasn't like going live anymore at that point. So they put it on that, but like we would just stay up to like 1-2 o'clock in the morning watching those every night, and just like got through the whole series fairly quick considering how many episodes they would put on that night. But
Yeah. I love again how emotional and how real that show got to. It's just like
there was definitely some big emotional moments, like just some of those. Oh, man, it just had some of those really key moments that really like kind of made you sit back and think, and it's like, this is not what I expected from this show at all.
yeah.
Yep.
But for the emotional moments, the ones that got me a little bit more was more so with Fresh Prince of BelAir.
Oh, yeah.
There was some really well done emotional moments throughout that series. And like, we watched that show so much growing up, our pet bird at the time knew the full theme song, and we just start whistling it at some random points during the day.
Nice. That's
how,
so cool.
That's how much we watched that show. So that one
in West Philadelphia, born and raised.
On the playground where I spend
Like-
most of my days.
Home Improvement is definitely my favorite, but it is a very, very close second with Fresh Prince. For
Yeah.
me.
Oh, before we move on, I have to do the noise.
I'm not even gonna attempt.
I can actually do the little guitar riff before that too.
Nice.
I've known how to do the Tim Taylor grunt for far too long in my life.
My dad was the king of that grunt, and I learned it from him. And
Life
Tim Allen,
lessons.
obviously.
Yeah.
Life lessons passed down.
Yep. Thanks, Dad.
I do like that he like brought small aspects of that back in his Last Man Standing show.
Oh,
and
yeah.
there's another show he's doing with the actor that played Al Borland, where they're like sending random items to people.
April Wilkerson.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're sending random items to people and like, all right, you have to build this item with the materials we sent you.
Yeah.
So
It's basically a live action Tool Time.
Yep.
more or less, yeah.
Actually, isn't that what it's called?
No,
No.
I think it's something else. But
Okay.
But we're getting off topic.
Yeah.
well, Tim Allen's great. So, but yeah, and Fresh Prince was a big one for me too. Growing up, like we watched that so much. That's another one that I have on DVD and I have on digital. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, back then, obviously, before Will Smith got really big, like, that was his coming out.
that was one of the early ones for him. Yeah,
Gosh, yeah. And it was so... He was very real in that because he was basically playing himself a little bit more caricaturized.
Yeah.
Like,
It
it's
was
not
slightly
like he
more-
is now when it's like Will Smith playing Will Smith as Genie, who is Will Smith.
right. Yeah, no, it's really just him.
It's Will Smith when he was actually an actor, not Will Smith when he was trying to emulate Nick Cage.
Yeah. I will always say that Will Smith will be one of my favorite actors just because of how well he is an actor.
Yeah, that and also, I mean, whenever we were growing up, he was in almost everything.
Yeah.
Well, that's,
and he
like,
was good
He
in
actually like
almost
talked to his
everything.
agent and was like, "All right, look, like, what's the best way to just get my name out there and be in as many movies as possible?" And the agent was like, "All right, you just go the sci-fi route. It was like there's always sci-fi movies. Just become that action sci-fi hero and sign up for as many of those as possible, and you'll become big and get your name out there and everything." And that's what he did. And sure enough,
Men in Black.
Yep.
Men in Black, I, Robot, Independence Day,
That's true. Yep. Welcome to Earth. Anyway.
Yep.
I Am Legend,
Hitchcock.
Yeah.
Hitchcock, yeah,
Oh,
Hancock.
Hancock, thank you. Well,
Hancock, yeah.
Hitch and Hancock. There
There
we
we
go.
go.
There you go.
Hitch and
Two different
Hancock
movies.
are
Yes.
wildly
Very
different.
different movies. Very different movies.
But still great movies.
Yes.
Both of them.
And we
Yeah.
don't talk about I Am Legend because they commit the immeasurable screenplay faux pas. They kill the dog.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Fun
But
movie
it-
outside
like,
of that.
It
I much
hit
prefer the
emotionally,
Ultimate
which is
Oh, yeah.
That, that's what they were going for.
And it worked.
Fresh
Sadistic.
Prince. Like
Yeah.
it also had those fun moments with Carlton. I think the back and forth between Will and
yeah.
Carlton was some of my favorite moments, and Will and Uncle Phil for
Oh,
that matter.
yeah.
And Jeffrey. Jeffrey was great.
Jeffrey had the snarky butler. Like
Hey, favorite scene from the entire series that sticks with me. Hey, Jeffrey, make me a sandwich. There, so there's now a sandwich.
All right, so here's an off the wall one that I know we kind of talked about a little bit ago. Well, before we started recording was Frasier. I don't know if you guys ever watched Frasier.
that one's one I never
Kelsey
got
Grammer?
around to.
So, admittedly, I always get Frasier and Seinfeld confused.
Two wildly different shows.
Right. I know one's a bunch of people in New York. The other one's the radio psychologist in
Yes.
Seattle.
So Seinfeld is the show about nothing in New York,
Okay.
and Frasier is the one about the radio psychologist.
Got it.
So Kelsey Grammer plays Frasier, and I can't remember the actor's name, but his brother Niles was in a lot of stuff other than Frasier. But he played the guy in Treasure Planet.
You're going to have
The
to narrow
dog
that
character.
down.
The dog character.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
but yeah, he does a really good voice and is very
he
very
does.
noticeable.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it was one of those shows that I just recently started watching again, and it was like, I watched this as a kid, and there's a lot of adult stuff in it.
That's what you'll see with any of those old sitcoms that you go back to, and you just think, how did I not pick up on
Yeah,
it wasn't even on your radar.
nope, not at all.
Yep. Yeah, so my grandparents used to have that one on, Frasier on fairly frequently. So grandmother loved it, And then they would bring us in to watch Faulty Towers afterwards. Faulty Towers, Are You Being Served, and Keeping Up Appearances.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yep.
I've heard of Keeping Up Appearances.
Yes. But that's outside of the date range that we're shooting for.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I guess the next one that's kind of, well, you touched on Seinfeld a little bit.
Yeah.
That one, I still haven't watched all the way through, but I've watched quite a few episodes, and I know it's one of my brother's favorite shows. But yeah, it's one of those ones that you kind of have to like be in the right mood for, but it still has its funny moments. So,
admittedly, the only full episode I've seen is the Frogger episode.
Okay.
That's all I remember from the episode.
Yeah, I remember the episode of where he goes to the restaurant and he goes, "No soup for you, 1 year."
Oh, yeah.
And also the other restaurant. It's always the restaurant ones where they are trying to get a table and George is saying, or the guy's calling out, Cartwright, and he's like, you still haven't called our names. I called Cartwright. That's not any of our names.
Oh man.
That's another one I haven't personally seen. Like Seinfeld, Frasier, 70s Show, Friends. I haven't seen some of them. I know those are like some of the big ones, but
Yeah, 70s Show and Friends were definitely big. Friends was one I was able to watch a little bit when I was younger, but it was on too late for me to stay up to watch. So I didn't get to watch that until later when I met my wife, and we watched it together, and it was such a great show. And it's funny, my little brother actually just started watching it, and he's like, yeah, I'm getting through all of it, and I love this show. And he's 16. So it's like, wow, a 16-year-old is getting into a 90s show. What?
I started watching that one. I understand kind of the character types, or the character archetypes, but not for me. I can appreciate it, but it's not for me.
Yeah.
that's kind of how I felt with those shows I listed off. Like I can appreciate the humor, but when I just sat down and like watched clips or whatever, I'm just like, it doesn't really interest me. I don't really care to sit down and commit to this. So
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see, like, especially, like, a lot of the relational stuff in it.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, it can get a little bogging down, but just Chandler Alone, for me, is well worth the watch. He's just so funny. It's, again, one of those types of humors that's just like, I emulate that so much. As much as I can, anyway.
Yeah.
you emulate a dialed down version of that.
I don't know if it's dialed down. It might be dialed up. I don't know.
Dialed up with the two of us, dialed down outside of
Yeah.
your comfort zone.
Yep.
Yeah, like I couldn't go out on stage and start doing it or anything. But like, although this is a stage, I feel like I can.
Dan,
You're still in a
you're
room
forgetting
with
your high school, bud.
the two of us.
You're forgetting your high school, some of your high school lessons.
You mean my
the
homeschool?
world, well, that too. All the world is a stage.
I was just making that point of, yeah, no, I was homeschooled. I have no stage.
The front porch.
Yep, there it is. But anyway,
Another big one that we grew up with would be Family Matters.
such a great show. Urkel,
Cool.
Steve Urkel.
Leave it to the grump of the group to react that way.
that is one of the few shows where I agree with certain members of my family, where part of the reason why we don't watch as many comedies is because they feel genuine pain and embarrassment on behalf of the character. Family Matters was one of those shows for me.
If you have
The
secondhand
dad
embarrassment,
was
that's
awesome.
on you.
I agree. The dad was awesome. But with Steve Urkel being the focal point of the show, just, nope. Nope. The character drove me nuts.
He was one of my favorite characters growing up. He was so great.
Same. Leave it to David to be the grump.
I will be that guy.
Those of us that, or those listening that know David will not be surprised.
No, they will not.
And that's why we call you the noob for this one.
Yup.
Although, as far as we've gotten so far, you've known all the stuff overall.
Yep.
So I'm...
And that's
Proud
really
of
the
you.
only one that... Well, no. I've knocked on two.
Yeah, a couple of them you've not known necessarily, but
Yeah.
that one you just dumped on, so...
Yeah, it's all right. I can see why people enjoy it because they have that one relation that's like that.
I didn't. Or I was that.
One
or the other.
Porque no los dos.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't that nerdy. I was nerdy, but not that nerdy.
Yep.
You wouldn't know it from the way I dressed, but...
Well, another one from that time frame would be Full House. Just like, that was one that my sisters watched a lot. And I watched it a good bit too, but
Mary Kate
I didn't
and
watch
Ashley,
it. Like
Back then, when I was that young, I had a huge crush on both of them.
most people our age did have a crush on the Olsen twins at one point.
Of course.
Yep. Agreed.
Until they got to late teenagers.
Yeah. I remember whenever they were doing all the direct to VHS movies.
All the Olsen twin movies.
I remember those more than I do the show.
Yeah.
And the very, very very creepy pizza montage.
I enjoyed the show just because of like some enjoyable characters, and there was that was another one that had some of those more like emotional moments.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like I remember like that one episode where Stephanie, was it Stephanie or DJ? I don't remember. One of them went to a sleepover, and it was supposed to be like a mother-daughter sleepover. And it was just, and like they were going through that emotional thing of just like, I don't have a mom here. And it's like my uncle stepped up to the plate and went with me to like try and help me out. But like, I'm the only one here that doesn't have that mom relationship. And so like that back and forth, and that was like,
it was Danny. Yeah.
Huh?
I think it was the younger.
Stephanie.
Danny was the dad.
Danny was the dad, yeah. It was Uncle Joey was the one that went with them.
Yeah,
One of the older girls was Daniel. Went by Danny.
it was DJ.
DJ. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Never mind. Okay.
I want to say it was Stephanie. I'm pretty sure it was Stephanie, but either way, like that was another one that had that like more emotional, like serious moments that they would sprinkle throughout the show, and it was like it kind of hit a little different back then.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, especially when it was a little less common for divorces and stuff like that. Where
Well,
it's
that
just
one
like,
wasn't divorce; like the mom had passed.
oh,
away.
that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the mom
yeah.
passed.
Sorry, brain just
Yep.
farted.
He was a widower.
Well, that was also just that was part of that dynamic of why the two uncles moved in was because of her having passed away, and Danny just be like, I have 3 daughters and I don't know what to do at all in this situation.
Yep.
I don't know how to handle this. And they like moved in, and they were more ignorant than he was, but like that team dynamic helped out a lot.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And they kind of continued it with Fuller House, where DJ lost her husband.
Yeah, her husband passed away, and she
had 2 kids. I think. So yeah, it was.
2 kids, and then Kimmy and her daughter moved in.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then Stephanie moved in. But
Yeah.
Identify the single man who has watched this show.
I had free time. It is what it is. I watched, well, and it was like the nostalgia. I went back and watched a lot of those follow ups. It's like I saw that. I saw Girl Meets World, and like both of
Which
them were
actually, that one was
entertaining.
really good for what it was.
Yeah.
I think Girl Meets World was definitely the stronger of those two.
Definitely.
But like Fuller House wasn't bad. It didn't get me hooked like Girl Meets World did, or any of the shows we grew up with. But
I have to say, I'm glad to hear that Girl Meets World hooked you, because I love that show.
it's far more entertaining than I was expecting it to.
And then it should be.
Yeah,
Probably
that's
because
fair.
it kept a lot of that same mentality.
Yeah.
It was great because they didn't change a whole lot from what that was.
Yeah.
They kept it very family friendly. They kept it very family oriented.
Yeah. And it was very much there is a family dynamic where the family is a single team.
Yeah.
Very different people, but they are a team.
Yep.
And they learn from each other because of how different the personalities are.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Augie was a cute little kid.
Yeah.
Yep.
Uncle Eric.
Oh my gosh, Eric.
The fact that they brought him back was awesome.
Yeah. Was it Mr. Squirrel or something?
I don't remember.
Plays with squirrels.
Plays with squirrels.
Yup.
That was
the
from
only man that can save the world.
Boy Meets World, though.
Yep.
Yeah, but he
Plays
kept
with
it
squirrels.
going.
Yeah.
He did it.
Parts of it. It wasn't anywhere near to the level of the
Right.
character he did in Boy Meets World, but yeah.
That's where he started in that show, though,
Yeah.
because he was living as Plays with Squirrels, and then they came back and were
That's
like,
right. Yeah.
"No, we need you to be a politician."
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
No comment.
I mean,
It's
anyway.
an improvement.
So anyway,
Oh, that's one for the cutting room floor. Ooh. Actually, there is another one that my sister and I used to watch. Sabrina.
oh my gosh, yeah.
The original Sabrina.
Yep. That's
The good one.
the magic one, right?
Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Yep.
I watched it mostly for Salem.
Yeah.
Salem was really good.
Salem
that
was
one,
great.
I only watched bits and pieces of that one. My sisters were a lot more into that show than I was.
Yeah.
But like what I did watch, Salem was always hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
fact that
the
he-
robotic cat is can't go wrong.
Special effects that definitely did not age well, but still hold a very special place in our hearts.
It's like Jurassic Park.
Yeah, pretty
Where
much.
you just like, yeah, you can tell it's a robot, but it's pretty
Jurassic
stinking
Park
awesome.
definitely aged better than Sabrina the Teenage Witch, though.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, it had a bigger budget. But yes, that show was hilarious growing up.
That is one I never did get to watch because of,
Yep.
you know.
It's kind of funny the shows that we could and couldn't watch, and it's like
And
I
why?
could, yeah, like I could sit through like Home Improvement, Fresh Prince, and shows like that. But then there's other shows that's like on the same level, and my parents were like, no,
Yeah.
like
I will admit there was some consternation with my sister and I watching that one.
Yeah. Same kind of thing with like the Harry Potter stuff. It's like, yeah, it's got that stuff in it, but it's a comedy. Come on.
Well, Sabrina, not Harry Potter.
Yeah. We're talking about the sitcoms here, dude.
Yes. Sorry.
one of the ones that I picked
On
up.
target.
Stay on target. One of the ones I picked up later, I watched it a few years after it had started airing, was Malcolm in the Middle.
Oh,
That one,
yes.
I think it had already finished by the time that I picked it up. I remember like we were in North Carolina visiting my grandma, and it was like later at night, and everyone was like, like they were starting to wrap up and go to bed, and us kids were just like, no, I don't want to go to bed yet, and so just scrolling through, found Malcolm in the Middle, and started watching that, and that just became like a nightly thing for the week that we were there. It's like when the adults would start getting ready for bed, we would put on Malcolm in the Middle. And then when we got home, we just continued it. And that's another one that's become like one of those favorites for me.
Yeah.
Yep. I didn't get into that one until I think senior year of high school, and then that was one of the things that's a couple years later. My roommate in college and he and I could actually sit down and bond over was watching Malcolm in the Middle.
Nice.
It just had some funny moments, just like the brothers being like somewhat violent, but for different reasons.
Oh yeah,
Just like the smart violent, the dumb violent, and the smarter than you think, but still not as smart as the others violent.
yeah. The sleeper one.
Yeah.
Dewey was great.
The behind the scenes puppeteer. Dewey's like, it was so good. He was such a great character. Like some of those moments, just him like outwitting Reese and just making it look so easy and like,
Dad, run. What? Son, why? She can only ground me.
you know, throws the spider on Lois's face. She can only ground one of us. Go.
I expected nothing and I'm still disappointed.
There's something else I picked up. Who knew?
The inadvertent lessons learned.
Right.
And not to mention, Franky Munoz was actually a pretty decent actor.
He
yeah.
was.
That was
Yeah.
the only thing I had seen with Franky Munoz before that was Big Fat Liar. Mm-hmm. And so like I didn't really know much about him other than that one movie, and then I watched that show and I was like, oh, he was actually really good, much better than I realized.
And then the Cody Banks movies were pretty good, I thought.
I never got
when
to
they
see
came out.
those. I never saw them. So
Yeah.
Cody Banks, and then there was another one he did where he was playing like Cher's boyfriend.
Cher's boyfriend?
Yes, it was a very awkward dynamic.
Yeah. That's a little weird.
Pointedly, like that was kind of the point of them throwing it in the movie. I just can't remember the name of the movie.
Yeah, I don't.
It's like the one thing I remember is like they had that very weird relationship in it.
Yeah,
When you look at-
that's a little off.
thinking about it, like out of the actors and actresses from Malcolm in the Middle, Bryan Cranston's the only one that's still like well known.
Yeah.
Franky Muniz has walked away from the acting scene. I'm
Rightfully
forgetting
so.
her name, but the actress that played the mom has had mostly smaller roles since then. She played like a psychiatrist in Big Bang Theory for like one episode.
Right,
Yep.
right.
But like, yeah, like most of them don't do anything. The kid that played Dewey was in Christmas with the Cranks.
Yeah, yep.
Oh yeah.
They had a smaller role in that, but yeah, like outside of Bryan Cranston, most of them do next to nothing in acting nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But-
Bryan Cranston is a treasure, so
As an actor, yes.
just seeing him in Malcolm in the Middle and then Breaking Bad, and it's just like, wow, that's so different.
Yeah.
Very different characters.
Yep.
He was on my list of actors that could play a couple of the Marvel villains. One of the ones that I thought of was Mr. Sinister.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think he's such a good actor. Like, he was definitely wasted on the Godzilla movie, but as much as I love that movie,
Yeah.
but I do think there must be something in his contract that he's got to be in his tidy whities for at least one scene of whatever he's in. Because it's like Malcolm in the Middle happened multiple times. Breaking Bad it
Multiple
happened.
times.
I timed that right as Dan was taking a drink, so it's perfect timing. You're
Tidy
welcome.
Whities will never not make me laugh. The words Tidy Whitey. Anyway.
Oh, okay. Thank goodness.
But getting back to topic, another one that I think at least I want to say all of us have seen was Even Steven.
Yes.
David pointed that one out earlier, and I'd actually forgotten about that one.
Honestly, I've only seen the movie and a few episodes. So I
was
never
a
got to
fun
watch.
show.
Yeah.
It was like that was Shia LaBeouf's like start, and just
Yeah.
seeing like where his career's gone since then. Like,
Yep.
with some of the very different movies that he's portrayed after that. Like, he did Transformers, he did Lawless, which was
Holes.
fantastic.
Can't forget Holes.
Yeah.
Holes is a little bit closer to that Even Steven character.
Oh,
He
yeah.
started to branch out from there, but like
Stanley Yelnats.
Stanley Alone, like, and
Constantine.
Lawless was one of
Oh, I
the big
forgot
ones
his
for
name
me.
was
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
iRobot. I think he was in as well.
Oh, he had a very short role
Very
in
short
Yeah.
role in
iRobot, yeah.
iRobot and Fury.
Yep. Okay.
Oh yeah, he was in Fury. That's right. He was really good in Fury.
Yep.
He's a great actor. It's like
Surprisingly good,
The
yeah.
script that they gave him in Transformers was not his fault.
Yeah. Well, the first one was good. I thought the first one was
I
well
stand
done.
by that they're all entertaining, but I also like robots fighting robots. Like,
Of course.
that I
We've discussed
I
this.
can easily turn my brain
At
off
length.
on like the critic of the group.
I will say I finally, thanks to y'all in large part, I finally gotten to the point where I can just sit back and say, you know what, it wasn't good, but dang, that was fun.
Yeah. That's what I'm looking for with most of it. Like, but anyway, like with Even Steven, it was one of those just really quirky shows, and Bean is freaking hilarious. I'll always find Bean as a hilarious character.
Yep.
Wait, Bean is the...
Bean is the neighbor who always interjects himself.
Yeah.
Oh, in the show. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was thinking Transformers still.
Oh no, sorry.
I was like,
No
is
wonder
that
you were
the...
confused.
Is that the
brought it-
Section 7 guy?
I brought it back to topic.
Yeah,
Well,
sorry. My brain was still going off the wheel there. But yeah, anyway, Bean.
Yeah. Bean was hilarious, and just I always remember that one episode where it's just like they crash in the yard, and Bean just lets one rip, and Shia's just like, "Mother of pearl, Bean, God!" And just watching Shia flail on the ground like, "Oh no!" It's just hilarious to me.
Wait, please tell me that's the guy that the kid who's in all those movies that were like. He's the nerdy kid, and like
You're really gonna have to narrow.
You're gonna have to narrow it down so much more than that.
Cheaper by the Dozen. He was the neighbor in that one.
I think so.
I don't know.
Kind of a strange looking kid.
A little bit.
Dan,
Yes. Yep. That's the kid.
did either of you ever watch The Nanny back in the day?
I did not. My sister did. I watched a few episodes later on and was absolutely roaring.
Oh yeah, it's
Great
fun.
show.
It's another one of those with the snarky butler.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Though
The English snarky.
Yeah.
though the fact that Fran was able to keep Fran Drescher, is that her name?
Yeah.
The fact that she was able to keep that fake voice up consistently, even in interviews. There's one episode that sticks out where it's her actual voice.
I think that was pretty early on in the
Really?
show too.
Yes.
I thought that was her real voice.
Oh no,
She keeps that voice up in interviews. If you hear her real voice, you will not recognize her.
Oh my gosh.
And,
Yeah,
but
that freaks me out a bit.
yeah, there is a clip from the show where they make that joke. Like, that voice is her stage persona.
Wow.
Yeah, because she uses that same voice in the Hotel Transylvania movies.
Yep.
Dang.
But her real voice, there is a clip from The Nanny where she and Vivian go out for sushi. And Vivian convinces her, like, oh, no, you need to try the ginger and wasabi. It's like Japanese mustard.
Okay.
So Fran, thinking, oh, mustard, like a hot dog, cakes her sushi with the wasabi.
Oh no.
Takes a bite, and goes into this, almost seizes, basically. When she composes herself, she stands back up, sits down, and in her actual voice, oh wow, that really clears out the sinuses. I wonder how long it's gonna last. And it goes right back into the stage.
I always like it when they have a character that has a random voice like that, and they like tease the real voice. They did the same thing in Big Bang Theory with Bernadette, and she always has that like higher pitched voice throughout the show. And there's like one episode where her husband mocks her for that, and she's like, I don't sound like that, and like does her normal voice, try to like bring it down. That show was great, and just the back and forth with Niall and Cece, the assistant, was great because it's just like their hatred of each other that eventually led to them getting together. It's like I would not have pegged that pairing at all with how they roast each other.
Yep.
Yeah. It's always very weird.
Yeah, but that one was hilarious.
Yeah, that was one I used to watch as a kid, but I don't remember a lot of it because I didn't continue watching it. So it was like, once I got to a certain point, I was just like, all right.
That's one of the few from childhood that I watched all of, but I've never gone back and rewatched.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like with the other ones that I've brought up or that y'all have mentioned that I've watched, with the exception of Even Steven, that's the one other exception, but most of those I've gone back and watched multiple times since childhood.
Yeah, speaking of shows that I've watched multiple times, one that I grew up on overall, I was a little older, but because it came out in 2001, was Reba. So it was...
Is it that old?
Yeah.
2001.
Oh, gosh.
Yep, 2001, Reba McEntire had a show, and it's one of those shows that you can rewatch multiple times and be like, yeah, okay, this is still funny.
Yep.
Because the character Van
was hilarious.
So funny, so slapstick, so like smartly funny, smartly dumb.
That's another one that I haven't watched. And like looking at the list of what I have and haven't watched, it seems like the more kid-oriented ones are the ones that I steered towards.
Yeah, of
And the other ones were the ones that I just never really watched. And I still have that childish humor, so you know.
It fits. It fits.
Yep. It's what endears you to many people.
That and the dark humor. But anyway.
Yes.
Not everyone gets the dark humor because not
Right.
everyone can
Just
take
like
the dark
Not
humor.
everyone can take it. Yeah. But yeah, that was a really fun show. Again, another one of those very family friendly, family oriented shows that shows a different side of it, of like what happens when things go wrong, and you can still be family.
Yeah.
Because the whole show was about her being divorced to her husband and her 16 or 17-year-old kid getting pregnant.
Yep.
And stuff like that, but they all came together and made it work.
Yeah.
It was a blended family of sorts, not really blended, but like, you know what I mean. And it shows how you can still love each other even through bad things.
Yeah.
And then it can be funny too. So
Yep.
Yeah.
so yeah, it's pretty fun.
And there were two others that my aunt loved, and she tried getting the rest of the family on them. Everybody Loves Raymond. And King of Queens.
Yeah. Yeah.
And admittedly, the few scenes that I remember, yes, absolutely. Phenomenal shows, absolutely hilarious. Can't remember the overall plot line or premise behind why they are the way they are. But the few clips I remember, it's like, yep, that was funny.
yeah.
Like for King of Queens, I've never watched all the way through. Back when I worked at Best Buy, that would tend to be one that people would put on in the break room. And so I've seen at least parts of episodes here and there over the years when I was there. And it was always entertaining and funny, but yeah, it was just never one I like sat down and committed to.
Yeah. Kevin James, I really love his comedy style, and
Same.
like he can be on the slapstick side as well, but also very just joke heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like a cleaned up, he's like a family friendly version of Bert Kreischer for me.
Yeah.
I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know Bert Kirshner, but
Bert Kreischer's hilarious,
thank
but
you.
not
family
friendly.
friendly. At
hence
all.
hence the family friendly version.
Yeah. Yes. Kevin James is definitely one of those actors that, like, if he's not one that I'll just straight up go see a movie for if he's in it, but if he's in it, that is an extra, like, encouragement. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
cool, he's in it. Okay. Like,
Yep.
I enjoy his acting.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, like one of the few movies that he's like the headliner in, like Here Comes the Boom.
Oh, yeah.
That was such an awesome movie, like very heartfelt.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, it shows him as a very good family friendly actor. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And he
you
has,
wanna
a,
see
he has a
him-
surprising amount of range, too.
yeah,
Yeah, he does.
very much so.
A really fun moment with him was when he did an episode of Hot Ones.
Oh,
That was just
nice.
funny watching him try to like get through it. And they were talking about Here Comes the Boom and a few other movies that he's done, and just watching him struggle through it while trying to answer questions about the movies is pretty fun. Another one that I really enjoyed was Step by Step. Did either of you guys watch that one?
I did.
I don't recall that one at all.
That one was, so it was like this. It was a guy. It was kind of
Blended
like
family.
Brady Bunch ish, right? Where they each had their own kids and they got married and like their family just kind of had to mix together. It wasn't nearly to the size of Brady Bunch, but it was a similar concept, and it was a fun one. Like just the dynamic of the family, and especially like the husband and wife back and forth, like trying to figure out like, okay, like I'm technically the parent, but I'm not like the original parent of half of these kids. So finding
Yeah.
that balance of like I'm still the parent, and you still got to listen to me, but it's a different dynamic.
I still have to laugh though because the mom in that, Suzanne Summers, she did the she had her own diet book, and my family actually followed that for a while, and I just thought it was funny. But
Come to think of it, I think we did too.
it wasn't
Was
Weight
it
Watchers.
eating for life?
No, I think it was like it was kind of like Weight Watchers, but it was
I don't remember.
it was called something else. But
No, but like you said the name. It's like, why do I know? That was not a cookbook. Oh my gosh.
It was, yeah, there was a cookbook, there was all this other stuff, and I was just like, wow.
Just
An
the things
actor
that
made
those-
us eat differently.
The things that came out with those old shows that we grew up with, I'm just like, why was that a thing?
Yeah.
Like, why did we get the cookbook from Step by Step?
But I will say that one of my favorite characters, and it's a common theme for me, is all the dumb characters, is Cody, the neighbor that lived in the RV out in their
Yeah.
yard. Oh my gosh, so funny. He was like that surfer dude, like from California, like, hey dude, like I'm just gonna like live in your yard and like, yeah.
He was semi Eric Matthews intelligence wise, but surfer dude.
But he had his redeemable moments though, like where he would have some amazing insight that was just like, oh yeah, he's right.
Yeah, it's just that confusing. Like that came from that.
Yeah. And then of course, you know,
So basically,
one or two of the daughters was quite cute.
we are but simple men.
Yeah. And it was the 90s, and you know, we were young. A little too young for that.
Yeah, a little bit. Trying to think, what are some other ones that are out about that time?
Saved by the Bell was another one from that time frame.
Another good one.
That one's another one that just like right in the nostalgia.
Mm-hmm.
That one's
Screech.
one that like I have rewatched, but not within the last like decade, so I
Yeah.
don't remember very much about it. But
Also, that's one that when they made the reboot, or not the reboot, but the continuation of the story, did not age well.
no,
It was
well, it's almost felt like they kind of lost some of the heart of what the original show was about, and just weren't really sure what to do with it.
yeah.
It was just kind of trying to coast off of the title. Yeah, so it didn't do very well at all. But
Yeah, because Zach was like a teacher or a principal or something,
something like
but
that, yeah.
he was like a totally different character.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, that didn't work out too well.
Which, like, I get that he's going to be older and have matured and changed over time, but yeah. At least with, like, Corey from Girl Meets World, it's like, he was still Corey
Yeah.
Matthews. Like,
He
you
was
knew
still the
exactly who he was. He
same
was a much
character.
smarter, more mature version of himself, but he was very much Corey Matthews.
Yeah.
And same
Very
thing
much
with
so.
Topanga, for that matter.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Topanga.
Topanga. Going back to Boy Meets World real quick, I think the military episode is one of my favorites
Yes.
just because of Eric trying to sneak attack Feeny.
Yep.
Honestly, I really don't remember that episode.
It's when Angela's
I don't know
dad comes to the college and is like kind of putting some of them through like the military boot camp for like some
Yeah.
sort of program thing. And Sean is the only one that actually like makes it to the end. But it's like
Surprisingly so.
Angela's dad walks in. He's like, "All right, can anyone tell me what they learned from this program?" And then Eric pops up behind him, and just wraps his arm around him, sneak attack, and he like flips him on the ground, pops back up. "I'll learn how to sneak attack. I'm gonna get you, Feeny. Tomorrow, 2:00. I'm gonna sneak attack you."
And all I can remember now is the pull string doll that Eric gives Feeny, or that Corey gives Feeny.
Eric gave it to him because he was
Oh,
getting
it
ready
was
to move
Eric.
away.
You're right.
And he was like, "Come on, admit it. You love the Feeny call." I was like, "I love the Feeny call."
Yeah.
You're
I
right.
just loved it when there's like that one episode, Corey and Eric were standing outside of Feeny's house, and Eric's doing the call and does another one. He goes, "Oh, that was a new one." And Corey's like, "Yeah, that's a new one."
Yeah, with Saved by the Bell though, that's one of that I didn't get to watch when I was younger, but for whatever reason, I think we were allowed to watch. I don't know, whatever.
You
but
didn't watch, but you were.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
What point being, I didn't watch it when it was relevant. But I watched a few episodes later on, and I think also in college. And all I could think of is that clip of Steve Buscemi walking down the high school halls the whole time. It's like, this isn't okay.
Yeah, no one can convince me Slater was a high school kid.
Exactly.
If he was, he had failed a few semesters.
Yeah.
More than a few.
Yeah, he was a bit too mature for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
All right, well, I think that'll about wrap us up for this episode. We appreciate everyone that took time to listen to this, and we ask that if you are enjoying this, please share it with your friends and loved ones. We would really appreciate the support. But for those of you that are listening, thank you so much, and enjoy.